Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 14.4.2 and iOS 14.5 Beta 6 have been out for a few days, up to a little bit over a week, and so I wanted to share with you some more new features, as well as the overall experience, any issues that you are having based off the YouTube community poll, where over 40,000 of you voted between the two different versions, as well as over 700 comments as well. So I took all of that data, compiled it to give you the most accurate information possible, and if you want to see more of these style videos, make sure you're subscribed, as only about 50% of you are subscribed that watch these weekly videos. So if you want to be notified when the next one's out, or just the regular videos I do throughout the week, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell. Now, the first thing is iOS 14.5 Beta 6 new features. And if you want to jump to any specific part of the video, I've left all the time codes in the description, or you can see them usually along the player scrubber bar. And the first thing is when you set up the iPhone for the first time, if you're on iOS 14.5 Beta 6, there's some new Siri options. Now, if I bring in a second generation iPhone SE, this is from 2020, I have iOS 14.5 Beta 6 on it. And if you don't sign in with your iCloud address that you've had previously, where you selected your current Siri voice, it will actually ask you which voice you would like to use, voice 1 through 4. Now, depending on the country you're in, you may only have 2 voices, but in the United States, currently there's now 4 with Beta 6. There's 4 different voices. Here, take a quick listen.
Hi, I'm Siri.
Hi, I'm Siri.
Hi, I'm Siri.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use. You can change it later in settings.
And so you have the traditional Siri voice, which is voice 4, and then the others, and they're a little bit more natural as well, now that it's using the neural engine a little bit more to make it more human-like. So that's in the setup if you don't sign in. If you're already signed in with your iCloud address, it will just default to whatever you selected before. Now, the next thing is if you're using the Face ID unlock with your Apple Watch and you're running watchOS 7.4 betas and you're using a mask, it will unlock much faster now. It seems to be very fast with unlocking. It's almost as close as just picking up your phone and swiping up, and it unlocks. It's very close to that. They've really improved it with Beta 6, and it seems to be much faster. Another thing they've updated has to do with the Apple Support app. Now, there's 2 different parts to this. If you don't have the Support app installed and you go to the website, maybe you're trying to check coverage of your device, you can see now at the top you have an app clip. You can tap on open, and now there's an app clip to install that application so that you can get more information about your support for your device. So that part's new. And then also, we'll go back home here. If we go back to a device that has that Support app already installed on it, we go to Support, you can see this is what it looks like. And if I tap on device details, there's more details now. So under device details, it tells you your model, your version, your serial number, and then your coverage info. If you go to your coverage, tap on that, you can see it tells you what you're covered with. So it's got all of your different Apple Care Plus coverage, and it's just updated right in here. They've added a lot of information in here if you're using the Support app. So a lot of information in there now. I would recommend the Support app if you need to get support, of course, for your phone. If not, you'll get that app clip, which is really nice. It makes it much easier to figure out what it is without putting in your serial number. Now, with iOS 14.4.2, the overall experience is not too different from 14.4.1. Quite a few people are saying that it's the same, they're not seeing anything else, but there are some others saying they have additional issues compared to when they were running previous versions. Now, I'm running it on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, but it goes all the way back to the 6S, 6S Plus, and SE. And if you're running the public version, quite a few people still complain about issues with Bluetooth, whether that be connecting to AirPods or third-party Bluetooth headphones, or maybe just your car with Bluetooth. Quite a few people are seeing disconnects and things like that. Also, people are complaining about Wi-Fi connectivity quite a bit, as well as LTE connectivity. That seems to be fairly general and is very hit or miss depending on your carrier, how far you are from the local towers, and more. So that could definitely be an issue, but most people are saying it's very similar to 14.4.1. People are continuing to see the lag and stutter when you're closing an app, for example. Sometimes it will stutter when you're closing, and just swiping in general use overall. So quite a few people are seeing that. Other people are seeing that the phone is heating up. This is normally pretty rare with public releases, but quite a few people are saying that the phone tends to be warmer than normal. That could lead to reduced battery health over time more quickly if the battery's really hot, or it could just be leads to battery drain and you're not getting as good battery life as normal. However, that's not the case based off the YouTube community poll, so I'll talk about that in a moment. Also, some people are having random iMessage and music app issues. So sometimes you might have lag when typing, or maybe it crashes. Other people are saying that the music app maybe just stops playing while you're playing music, for example. So there's quite a few issues on and off with that. Now, overall battery life of iOS 14.4.2 seems to be a little bit better than that of iOS 14.4.1 based off the community poll. I went through hundreds of comments to determine who said it was the same or better than 14.4.1 or even earlier versions, and how many people said that battery life was not so good. And based off that information, 57% of you said that it was the same or better than 14.4.1. 43% of you said that it was worse. This is actually a better ratio than we had with 14.4.1. So it definitely has better battery life for most people. Not everyone, of course, that's not a 90% are saying better has battery life, but 57% say it's the same or better. So that's actually better than the previous couple of versions. So that's not too bad. Now, as far as the overall use, I took a look at my wife's phone since she runs that version full time on an iPhone 12 Pro, and I took some screenshots. She has 100% battery capacity as far as the battery health, and you can see this is her usage. And this was the best day of usage she had. 2 hours and 40 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 7 minutes of screen off time, and she'd used just under 50% of her battery life. That would result in about 5.5 to 6 hours of screen on time for a 12 Pro. That's normal for that phone, so I have no complaints with that. Generally 5.5 to 6 hours when it first came out is what I was getting on that phone, sometimes only 5 hours. So I would say it's definitely the same or better, at least for her. Now, as far as iOS 14.5 Beta 6, I've been using it full time on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. I also have it on the iPhone 11. I have Beta 5 on the 6S Plus, just for comparison, as well as iPadOS 14.5 Beta 6 on my 12.9-inch iPad Pro from 2020. Now, my overall experience is generally good, but I have had quite a few issues with cellular to Wi-Fi switching this time around. I had that before. It seems to be worse on this device. So when I'm going from Wi-Fi to cellular, or from cellular to Wi-Fi, or from 4G to 5G, there's some weird switching issues where data just might not load. That could be in any app. I could try and play a song, it would be slow or it just wouldn't load at all. I could be in Safari and it doesn't work. I have to go into airplane mode, turn it on, turn it off, let it reconnect, and then it works fine. This seems to be a continued issue we've seen with a couple betas on and off, and quite a few of you have said the exact same thing. So a lot of you are saying the same thing. However, performance has been great for me. I've had no lag whatsoever, whether that be closing an app, whether that be swiping, running an app, no issues whatsoever there, and performance has been great for me. So I would say it's good on 14.5 Beta 6, except for that connectivity. However, quite a few of you had issues as well. And the first thing many of you mentioned was that widgets were disappearing from time to time. So your widget might be here, whether it be the weather widget or something else, and they would just disappear. They'd occasionally go away and then come back when you're swiping, or even having to reboot to bring them back sometimes. So that's kind of odd. Also, a lot of you have said that now that we have these new Siri voices, sometimes they sound odd. And I think that's to do with the neural engine, which is actually driving the voice to be more natural, and it's actually computer generated with AI, or it actually learning how to say those things. So it should be more natural, but sometimes it messes up and has some funny voices. Now, if we take a listen to Siri, it sounds pretty natural on mine, but I think that's because I'm using the regular version, or the regular default version we've had for years. What's the weather today?
It's currently clear and 61 degrees.
It does take a little bit of time. Like I said before, I've had some weird connectivity issues, but in general, it seems to be okay. Others have said that they're seeing lag in intensive games. So whether that be a racing game, or maybe you're using it for Call of Duty or something like that, people are saying that they're seeing some additional lag that wasn't there before. And if you're using older devices, maybe an iPhone 6S Plus or 7, some people are saying they're seeing more lag than they did with Beta 5. So it could be in any game you're playing, or just in general overall, but people are saying that. However, newer devices seem to be very fast. And newer, I mean iPhone XR and newer. Quite a few people with a XR up to the 12s are saying it's very fast. I don't think this was slowed down intentionally. I just think it being a beta, there's some bugs in there. Beta 5 was very fast for most, so we should see that in the future with some updates, maybe improving some of that. Also, people have said that the screen has not been as responsive, those that are having lag and having it get a little bit warmer than normal. Many people are saying green tint is fixed this time around, whether that be in settings or in just general viewing of things. Some people have said that it's reverted to a worse green tint, but most people say it's fixed. And then also predictive text sometimes isn't showing up when you're typing, whether that be in messages or somewhere else. So it's really hit or miss who you ask, but I think I see a lot less issues with Beta 6 than I did with previous versions, for example. So it seems to be pretty solid overall there. Now, as far as iPadOS 14.5 Beta 6, well, it's been pretty solid for me. And I've said that right along with these betas. It seems to be very good on the iPad. I've had zero lag. Of course, this is one of the later devices, but I've had zero lag. Everything just seems super fast all the time. Of course, the 120 hertz display, ProMotion display on here helps with that as well, but it just seems very fast. I still have disappointing battery life on the iPad though. So if we go back into settings, go down to battery, wait for it to load here, go to the last 10 days. I charged this to 100% late last night, 2 a.m. And during today, I've used it about an hour and 6 minutes of screen on time, an hour and 3 minutes of screen off time, and I'm below 80% already. I'm only getting about 5 hours of screen on time. I'm going to check battery health with a different application, see if it's really poor for some reason, although this isn't charged abnormally or anything compared to any other iPads I've ever had, and they all work. So I'm not sure exactly what it is. And like I've said many times, that if this continues when the final version comes out, I'll just wipe this device and start over. But it seems to be pretty poor compared to when it was new. So it's down from 10 hours to 5 or 6, which isn't very good on the iPad. However, on the iPhone, that seems to be different. So if we go into the settings on my iPhone, go to battery here, where are we? Down to here, battery health is at 100%. Now, for those of you on the iPhone 11 series phones, you may see that recalibrate. I haven't seen that. Of course, that's not the phone running it. I haven't seen that on my iPhone 11 here where it can recalibrate the battery. And some people are seeing that, and that's causing excessive battery drain, they believe, since it's trying to calibrate the battery. However, some people are seeing that, and that's a new feature in Beta 6 that I talked about in the other videos. But the update itself will not affect battery health. It's just looking at the overall battery health of the physical capability of the battery and then seeing how long it will last. So it seems to be pretty solid. This update is really focused on battery and seems to be much better. Now, if we go back and take a look at the overall battery life that I've been getting, yesterday I didn't use it a ton. I had 2 hours and 11 minutes of screen on time, 5 hours and 31 minutes of screen off time, a lot of usage from Twitter, mail, and home and lock screen. So those are causing a lot of usage, but not a ton. 5 hours and 31 minutes of screen off time is mostly from music. If we take a look at the day before, again, about 2.5 hours or so. Not great, but it's okay as far as what I'm seeing, because when I go to bed, I'm at about 50% of my battery. So something's a little off here. I've talked about this before. I think Apple's really working on getting the battery measurement correct. And right now, I can easily get through a day, maybe 2 days if I didn't charge it, but it's only telling me I'm using 2.5 hours of screen on time. So it's very hit or miss. Many of you are saying that it's quite good. So based off the YouTube community poll, a lot of you are saying battery life is excellent and much better than before. However, a beta is not really designed to test battery. It's more to fix bugs, introduce new features, get those fixed, and and submit feedback if you're having issues with it. So, and help Apple support the overall iOS ecosystem and make it better. So if you're looking for better battery life, I'd stick to the public versions, but otherwise, these betas seem to be pretty solid and getting better, at least for most people. Now that leads me to, should you install iOS 14.5 Beta 6? Well, I would say overall, if you're looking for better battery life or trying to fix a bug that a public release or a previous version you're on has, that's the wrong reason to install a beta. The betas are more to test out new features and make sure that they're working properly, submitting feedback to Apple, and maybe having issues along the way, even to the point where you'd have to format your device and start over or reset everything and start over. However, if you don't mind that, then sure, go ahead and install the beta if you know what you're getting into with that. Generally, you don't have those issues, but once in a while you do, and it becomes a problem. However, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 14.4.2, well, I would say absolutely. It was a security update, especially if you're on 14.4 or 14.4.1. 14.4.2 is a critical security update that helps you secure your device more. I would definitely recommend it if you don't have it already. It won't really change anything as far as performance. Most people are seeing better battery life, so I would recommend that instead. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 14.5 RC or release candidate and the final public release, if we go into the calendar here, we should see probably the RC this week, sometime around Monday or Tuesday, maybe even as late as Wednesday. It just depends on the week. Apple changes this up, it seems, every week lately. And then maybe a final release in the week of the 11th. So based off this, maybe we'll have an event or new product announcements as well, as many people have speculated. But at this point, I would expect iOS 14.5 within a couple weeks releasing to the public, and then maybe we'll move on to 14.6, for example. However, Apple has been pushing out security updates as well, so we could even see iOS 14.4.3 before the release of this version, as soon as maybe this coming Friday as well. We'll just have to wait and see what Apple does, but I would expect at the very latest 3 weeks from now, most likely 2 weeks for a public release. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll goes, so many people participated, it really blew me away. Over 41,000 people voted over 2 different polls that I have here on 14.5 beta 6 and 14.4.2 with over 700 comments. So that is crazy to me that many people responded. It's super helpful to all of us here to know what's really going on. And of course, I really appreciate it if you participated in that. Now, based off all of those comments, I took all of that information. That's where I got all the data from before and compiled all of that, and then just sort of broke it down to show you how many people mentioned things like battery life in 14.4.2, lagging and freezing, as compared to, say, iOS 14.5 beta 6. So this should show you that. And then also, here are all the devices you're using across both of those different versions. So 14.5 beta 6 and 14.4.2. And as you can see, pretty consistently, one of the most popular devices is iPhone 11. Quite a few of you are using that, and quite a few of you are using the newer iPhone 12. So 12 Pro Max as well. Those seem to be the most popular, and a lot of you are using iPad as well. So that's great to see. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these, and then we'll take a look at some of the comments. So as far as 14.4.2, 55% of you said that it's great. 5% said that it was terrible. 14% said it had some bugs. 12% are using the betas, and 14% are not using an iPhone. I may change this in the future to I didn't notice anything different, but we'll have to see about that. Now, as far as 14.5 beta 6, only 20% of you said that it was great. 3% said terrible. 5% had bugs, which is actually pretty low. 61% of you are on 14.4.2 or older, and 12% of you are using Android. So quite a difference as far as great versus terrible on each of them. And it's funny to see that only 20% said great, but 55% said great here, but 5% said terrible, and only 3% here. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe I need to change some of these up a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the comments, maybe 5 out of each of these. So we'll go into beta 6 here. Juan says, Siri sounds like a demented Donald Duck when it announces someone calling. I've tried to change Siri's voice, but I'm not sure how to correct it. It's really weird, and the device is an iPhone XS Max. Matt says, iPhone 12, smoothest beta by far and improved battery life. Debbie says, seems worse in several ways than beta 5. Screen is less responsive, more email issues, still Bluetooth issues, iPhone 11 Pro and iPad Pro. Hope Apple gets it right soon. Sean Holbert says, finally, it seems like the swipe to home lag bug has been fixed. Feels very snappy. Gertie Manier says, it's running great on my iPhone 7, but the unlock lag, which has been around since iOS 13, is still not fixed. A lot of people have this issue. It has been reported a lot of times through feedback, but still no fix. I do not really feel like battery has improved. Matt Mills said 11 Pro Max, data stops working randomly and have to turn on airplane mode multiple times. Widgets randomly disappear from the home screen, comes back when you swipe between pages. Battery life seems worse than other betas. Podcast episodes take up to an hour to come into this new episode list. And Brian says not bad, but a few bugs with volume changing on its own and apps freezing on my XS Max. Let's go back and take a look at some of the comments from 14.4.2. and see what you had to say there. Now there's 577 comments, so I'm not going to have time to go through all of them, of course. But as you can see here, Brandon says, working great on my iPhone 11 Pro Max and my iPad 2019. Mehmed Azizov, I believe is how you say that, iPhone 8 Plus issue, heating of the phone on a video call and some freezing. Generally, when you're using your phone, using the camera or camera and cellular combined or Wi-Fi, it will get warm. That's completely normal. It shouldn't get hot to the point where it actually tells you that it has gotten too hot and then gives you a warning though. Rajath Menon says, rocking it on my iPhone SE 2016. It's great. However, there is still stutter when scrolling down in the app library. Barring that, everything else is smooth. Battery life is good. Eli Ramos says, the only issue I've had is the stuttering when closing an app and disappearing widgets on the home screen on my iPhone 12 Pro. Shashank Kamath says, hey, at Zollotech, can you please tell me why do phone batteries drain in a very fast manner just after updating and then normalize after a few days? And the reason for that is it just installed a new operating system. Then it has to go and index where everything is within the operating system and make sure everything is in its right place. Make sure that you know where it is. If you search for something, it will show up more quickly when it's indexed. Also, it has to make sure that everything's in place and then recalibrate the battery in some cases with, say, Beta 6, for example, with iPhone 11. So it really depends on the version and what Apple's doing, but it can vary from device to device. Merrick says, so far so good with my iPhone 12 Pro, just the search in the music app is sometimes not working. Owen Fisher says 14.4.2 is very good on my iPhone XR. Battery life is as expected and no bugs. John Hallinger says iOS 14.4.2 is running very well on my iPhone SE2. Smooth and fast, no complaints at all. And then Shamil Nazar says battery drains quickly on my 7 Plus. And then the Roblox Dodge HQ says iOS 14.4.2 on iPhone 11 feels the same just as iOS 14.4.1. And so that's it for iOS 14.4.2 and iOS 14.5 Beta 6 as far as the overall experience. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully we see a lot more from Apple very soon. I'm very excited to see what Apple has with iOS 15, for example. But let me know what you're most excited for in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.